Matthew 18:20 says that where two or more gather in my name, there I am also. Where I'm from says Matthew 18:20, and the Southern Baptist version says, where two or more gather in my name with fried chicken, a Southern Baptist is bound to be there. My name is Jamie Ruling. I am the principal of Swiss Memorial Elementary School up in Grundy County. And every time I've ever had to speak in a ceremony or anything like this, my wife has always said, be sure you mention me. So that's Miss Amanda Ruling. She's sitting right there. And what was funny was earlier this week I was at work and she called and she said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm writing down some jokes and getting prepared for the Isaiah House 117. She said, you shouldn't do that. And I said, why? She said, because you're not funny. And I said, no, you just don't have a sense of humor. So anyway, what I like to do, I like to tell a little bit about my why. And being a middle school and high school principal, over the years, I've had a lot of whys. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of children that have been put into state's custody. I have had to call DCS in certain situations, things like that, and it's always heartbreaking. But something like the Isaiah House 117, or the 117 Isaiah House, is just a great thing that I am so happy to see, because it could be such a great thing for all the children in these three surrounding counties, but also the ones that's already existing that we've already started. So starting out, I'd like to introduce Mr. Stephen Hovatter, who is the minister from the Church of Christ here at Cedar Lane.
Hey, welcome, and we're glad that you're here tonight. We're grateful for the display of your affection and compassion, and we hope that because of tonight, in the name of Jesus, much justice will come about for the sake of these children. Would you pray with me? O God of creation, whose great heart of love has brought about all that we are and all that we see, who has given us the gift of life, Father, who sees every bit of our heart and who knows us inside and out, and who also knows every child who suffers, who sees the abandoned and the oppressed. Oh God, we believe that it is your will that every child knows safety and love and compassion. We believe it is your will that they grow to be men and women who flourish in their lives. Father, we believe that it is your will that your people would help to bring it about. And so God, in this place tonight, we would pray that you would teach us to do right, that you would help us to defend the oppressed and to take up the cause of the widow and the orphan. Father, so that your name may be honored as your people pursue your work of holy justice. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
At this time, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Of course, the Church of Christ here at Cedars Lane, Citizens Tri-County Bank, Chick-fil-A, Dameron's Restaurant, Fuel So Good Coffee and Bakery, Subway, Patty's Patch Florist, and the Celtic Cup. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I am Southern Baptist. Please don't hold that against me. But my pastor, as some pastors do, tend to be long-winded, and he always goes over in his sermons. Some of you may have experienced that, I don't know. And I asked him one day, I said, Pastor, I said, why do you always go over? He said, well, I want to give the Lord enough time to work. And I said, God made the heavens and earth in 6 days. I believe he can help you knock your sermon out in 20 to 30 minutes. So anyway, my job is to keep everything moving. We're supposed to keep it going. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Miss Susan Johnson. She lives in Grundy County. She is Expansion Coordinator for Coffee, Franklin, and Grundy County. And Susan, she works for the Discover Together as a family co-op teacher and a community ambassador working for high-risk students. Miss Susan Johnson.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for deciding to spend your Valentine weekend with us. What better way to spend Valentine's weekend than showing love for our children of our communities, to our DCS, and to our foster families. So thank you for being here. I do want to briefly thank all of our committee members and volunteers. They have worked so hard and really come forth on this ministry, and we could not do this without them. So they baked cookies, they've done whatever has been needed, so we have a wonderful committee here. And I also want to thank my family because they really get voluntold a lot of times. My husband Sam and my daughter Courtney and my son Cole, and I have to thank them because they're right along with me in this journey. I want to share with you how I got to where I am tonight. Last March, I heard Rhonda Paulson speak in Nashville, and it changed my life. She talked about where children went when they were removed by Department of Children's Services. And I'm ashamed to tell you, I did not know, and I've worked with children for over 17 years. She was talking about children going to DCS offices and conference rooms, and the whole time she was talking, I thought this does not happen in Grundy County where I live. Because I knew in Grundy County we had one foster family, and most of our children were with extended family members. And so immediately after I get back from here in Rhonda, I started asking the questions. And I asked a DCS caseworker 2 days later, does this really happen? She said, I had a child last night at 11 o'clock in the DCS office. So then I started asking more questions. And I found out that in Grundy County, we do not have a Department of Children's Service office. And that sometimes our children are taken to the county jail because they're trying to place those children as quickly as possible. This is of no fault of DCS. They're doing the best they can and as fast as they can. But we think our children deserve better. They don't deserve to be in a conference room. They don't deserve to be in an office or in a county jail. And that's part of my why that I'm here. My second part of my why is I work with children. I go to their homes and different things. And one child in particular has held a special place in my heart. And he's my second part of my why. I've taken presents to this child's home. I've taken food. I gave him incentives for coming to school, and that child never acted like they knew me. Their face was always this solemn look. But one day, I got the privilege of spending the time with him when a parent was arrested, and we were waiting for someone to come pick him up. Luckily, I had books in my bag, and I would read a page, and he would read a page. When the person that came to get him, they immediately started blaming that child, and the parent started blaming the child. The child was under 9 years old. And so I remember looking at that child and saying their name, and I said, you are not in trouble. You have done nothing wrong. Do you hear me? And I said their name again. I said, you've done nothing wrong. And the next day I really wanted to go and check on that child, but I was so afraid at what his reaction would be because I didn't know what all he had seen. I had told him that, the officer and the judge, they just have to make the parents follow the rules, just like you do at school, but his mom and dad still love him. So I didn't know what he'd seen. Well, the next day at school, I went down to where his classroom was, and I thought, I'm going to just check. And so I peeked my head in the door, and that child was smiling. And I remember going, who's smiling at? And I turned back around, and that child had a big smile on their face and was running to me and wrapped their arms around my legs. That was 45 minutes to an hour and a half of my time. Imagine if that child had to wait longer and could have been at the Isaiah 117 house with someone loving on them, giving them a meal, giving them a bath if they needed it, clean clothes. And so he's my why, because I think our children deserve better. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Kelly Lusk. She currently serves as the Investigations Coordinator for the Tennessee Office of Child Safety for the 14 counties in the South Central region. In the role of Investigative Coordinator, Kelly leads and mentors 24 investigators and 5 lead investigators to ensure children are safe by conducting timely and quality investigations while utilizing evidence-based practices and strengthening community partnerships. Additionally, Kelly leads and mentors all investigative staff directly assigned to provide service and monitoring families assigned to safe baby courts in Grundy and Coffee counties. Kelly has a Bachelor's of Science degree in criminal justice with a minor in criminal law from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I'd like to introduce Ms. Kelly Weiss.
Wow. Ms. Rhonda had asked me to talk to everybody tonight to, I guess, explain the true need. Because when you're talking about children and what children need, it's real hard to put that in perspective. I can tell you as of Friday evening in South Central Region, the 14 counties that we serve, we have 736 children in state custody. Now, folks, that may not mean much, but what you can do is look around this room and double it. That is how many babies, how many children are not in their own homes tonight. And of course, that's not all Coffee, Grundy, or Franklin County children, but I'm going to tell you something, it's a big portion of it. In the month of February, my staff in the 3 counties that are represented here tonight, guys, we laid our hands on almost 200 children. They didn't all enter foster care, but in some shape, form, or fashion, we had to make arrangements so that they could be in a safe setting where that they knew that they had somewhere to lay their head the next night, that they were going to get enough to eat, that they were going to be warm, and that they might actually get back up and get to go to the same school that they were at the following day. That's tough. There is not a person in this room that has not been around, seen, heard one of these children around them. You might not even have known it, but I bet you noticed something different the next day or two, maybe always wondered. These are your children. These are your children in your counties. These are in your communities, your churches. These are your children's friends, your grandchildren's friends. This is not, and I'm going to say this too, and I'm going to apologize to everybody. I'm not a public speaker. I am an investigator. That is what I do. Judge said differently. He said I could talk for hours, but that's not true either. Beg to differ. But what you need to know is that when we're talking about a place to bring children after they've been removed or when they can't go home, that's not just, I know everybody's got this dirty little kid running around in their head with barely any clothes on. But I'm going to share a real quick story with you. We had a set of grandparents that were traveling I-24. It keeps me real busy, especially during Bonnaroo. This family was traveling. They were going to take their grandchildren on a trip. They had a fatal car crash right before the I-24, right before the Manchester exit down here. We had 3 little kids, and believe it or not, now they were seen at the hospital, but they had very few scratches or bumps or bruises or whatever. What do you think I did with those 3 children while their parents came from California to get them? You hadn't thought about that, have you? Where did they go? Would you want your grandbabies or your children to go sit at the jail, to go sit at the courthouse? Listen, our law enforcement, our courthouses, they treat us so well. They treat us the best that they can, but it's not a place for a child to be under any circumstances. So know in your hearts that it's not just those children that you think about on TV that have absolutely nobody. It could be your own at some given point in time. Now, we were blessed enough in that situation that our Child Advocacy Center opened the doors, and we were able to go there for the almost 2 full days. That's what it took, folks, to get them here. I don't have just an airport sitting, right out the door here. So I want you to really think about, it could be your own someday. You don't want to think about that, but it could. And where would you want them to be? And where would you want them to go? The last thing I'm going to share with you all is that until we started all this with Isaiah 117 House, I'm a very, Miss Emily Parton, when we were walking in the parking lot, she's like, you're always in a hurry. Well, she's right. I walk fast, I talk fast, I do everything fast. I'm a very crisis-driven person because that's what my job requires. But until we started this, and I hadn't even thought about it, my husband actually shared a story. And I'm going to ask him to come up here tonight because it's a different perspective. Being an investigator, I know what I do. I know what my staff does. I know what, standing beside law enforcement when we walk into the courtrooms, I know what we see, I know what we do, and I know what we're going to do, and I can almost tell you what's going to happen. But to see it from someone else's perspective, I'd like to share that with you all tonight. This is my husband, Mr. Dwayne Lusk.
Good evening, everyone. Even having a spouse that does this for a living for 20 plus years, being on the sidelines, sitting back, I heard bits and pieces, saw parts of it, but it didn't really sink in because she tries to shield our family from the things she sees, from the things she hears, from what's going on at work. She tries very hard not to bring it home. But the story I shared, and she didn't remember it until I did. So being the spouse, I'm lying in bed. It's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. The phone rings. I begrudgingly answer the phone, and Kelly says, "Get up. It's early in the morning, honey. I've got to go to work." She goes, "Get up. I'm coming by the house." I said, "Okay, what do you need?" She goes, "Me and a co-worker, we have a toddler," I think it was a toddler at the time, "that we have gone to their home, and we picked them up, and we've got to take them to, I think the Franklin County office is where you were going that night, that morning." She goes, "I'm filthy, I'm dirty, I'm nasty, the baby's hungry, the baby's crying, and I need your help." I said, "Okay, what do you need me to do?" She said, "Just meet me at the front door. I can't come in." I said, "Okay." So like I say, it's early in the morning. I get up, meet her at the front door when I see the lights pulling in the driveway. She opens the front door. She hands me a bottle. She goes, "Sterilize it, clean it, scrub it, do whatever you have to do, get me a clean bottle. And once you do, warm some milk, put it in, heat it, whatever you got to do. We've got to have something to give this toddler." And I thought, I can accomplish this. This is not too difficult. So she hands me the bottle through the door. She stays on the front porch. She's, like I said, she says, I smell bad, I'm dirty, I can't come in. I said, all right. So I'm off to the kitchen. As parents and everyone in here, you know what that bottle looks like when you leave it under the car seat for about a week? Pleasant, isn't it? Nice. So go to the kitchen, open up the top of the bottle, dump whatever contents were in it out. And we always got to remember, if you don't take the nipple out of the top and don't clean beneath it, it can be very gross too. So obviously, I disassembled the entire bottle. It was green up under that nipple on top of the bottle. So I'm in the kitchen, hot water, soap, scrub, get a clean bottle, heat the milk as she asked me to. She told me how many ounces she wanted. Prepared the bottle, walked back to the front door, handed it back out the door to her, and she goes, "I'll be home sometime in the morning. I don't know when I'll be home because we got a lot of paperwork to do, but I'll see you sometime." I said, "Okay." So, not being married to a person who does this every day and then shielding our family, you don't realize the things that they see and what's really going on. They protect us well from it. And many of us in this room can't imagine, can't comprehend the things that these people who do this on a daily basis, the things they see, the things they hear, and the things they have to do. It's tough on them. And this is going to provide a great opportunity to have that place, to take that toddler, to get that toddler some clean clothes, give it a bath, maybe prepare another bottle that traditionally don't have. Because speaking as the spouse of someone that does this, there's a lot of nights, for many years, she'll be at the office. When are you coming home? I can't. We have 3 children. Until we get them have them a place to stay tonight, we can't leave them. So it may be 2 o'clock in the morning. It may be that 6 o'clock the next morning, they rotate shifts out, and the ones that stayed all night go home, get a fresh change of clothes, come back to work, because they're still having difficulty finding a place for these young children to go. So you think about that. We all work in environments. Imagine being stuck in a conference room all afternoon and all night. A 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old. I'm talking about a regular conference room, conference table, all kinds of chairs, concrete floors, carpet on above the concrete. That's what they're stuck in for the night. There is not a toddler bed. There's not a set of bunk beds. There's not a shower. Mr. Rudin.
Thank you, guys. Now, at this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Rhonda Paulson. She is the founder and executive director of Isaiah 117 House.
Well, good evening. This is amazing. Thank you. Thank you for giving up your time. Thank you for sharing your Saturday night with us. And the whole purpose of this evening is just to create awareness about a day you may have never thought about. Because that was me in 2014. In 2014, I knew nothing of foster care. I didn't know where the DCS office was located. I didn't know anyone who had walked that journey. I knew nothing of foster care. I was actually a cheer and dance coach and an anatomy professor at a local college, and so I would work in the cadaver lab, and then I would go pick up my pom-poms. It was a little random, but that was my life. And I had 2 beautiful children, Sophie and Mac, and married to the love of my life, Corey Paulson. Oh, he left me. Oh, there he is. And we had a good life. I was homesick from work, and I was watching the Today Show. And it was National Adoption Week, and they were actually forming families on the plaza that day. They had a judge, and they were literally forming forever families right there on the plaza. So of course I'm crying, because it's beautiful. But I'm also crying because I had always known I would adopt. It wasn't just like a feeling or a pretty story or an idea. I knew that I would adopt. And I remember Corey and I got married in 1997, and sometime during that first year of marriage, I said something like, I cannot wait until we adopt. And he was like, what? And I was like, the Lord has always told me I would adopt. And he was like, the Lord has always told me I wouldn't. I was like, how did we not discuss that in premarital counseling? Like, what? And Corey's the kind of guy that he truly believes if mama's happy, everybody's happy. He really lets me have my way about pretty much everything, but not this. It would be Orphan Sunday at church. They would show some horrible video about a child not being chosen. I would be under the pew doing the ugly cry. And he would be like, you need to get up. You are embarrassing yourself. I mean, nothing. So there I sit, I'm watching the Today Show. It's National Adoption Day. It's beautiful to watch these families being formed. I've always believed I would adopt. And they announced that 75% of the people on the plaza that day were adopting through the foster care system. I knew nothing about foster care, but you can Google anything. So I grabbed my laptop and I Googled foster care Northeast Tennessee. And this was a Monday, and the first thing that popped up is that there's training classes that you need to take in order to become a foster parent. And like I said, this was Monday, and those training classes were starting that Thursday at a church we were very familiar with. And so I like to say I did the only thing a God-loving, patient woman could do. 1997 to 2014, we call that patience. And I called Corey at work and I said, want to go on a date Thursday night? He said, I'd love to. I'll get Mom to watch the kids. I said, you do that. Yeah. And I remember we went to Bonefish, and when we left, I said, want to drive out to Crossroads Christian Church? And he was like, on our date? And I was like, yeah, we're on done. But he drove out, he didn't ask any questions. We pull in the parking lot, lots of cars. He said, lots of people dating at the Crossroads Christian Church. There are. We go in, we sit down, and the lady stands up and she says, welcome to your 8-week study of foster care. 8-week study of foster care, keep yourself real. I was like, hey, we're on a date for the next 8 Thursdays in a row. That's exciting. He was not happy, no. And I don't know what it says about our marriage, but we left that night and we did not speak a word of what had just happened. And then we lived life like normal. Good morning, honey. Hey, schmoopy. And then that next Thursday we met in the driveway and we just kind of, and we drove out to class without speaking a word of what was about to happen. Sat through class, drove home. Week 3, we drive out to class. We're driving home week 3 and Corey said, I don't want to do this. I said, fair enough. I was like, you have been a good sport. We made it 3 weeks. I tricked you into it. Fair enough. And he said, oh, don't fair enough me, Rhonda. And I said, what? He said, you and God have wrecked me. I am a wrecked man. He said, I don't want to do this. We have 2 beautiful, healthy children. Our life is simple and safe and predictable, and you know that I love simple and safe and predictable and order, and I don't want to do this. But now I've heard the numbers, and now I know the statistics, and now I know the children in our county alone that just need a place to lay their head. And I can't not do this. And so we went back, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, they had us take a field trip to the Department of Children's Services in Washington County, Tennessee. That's the Johnson City area. And I'd never been in a DCS office. I've now been in several across the state, and they're all oddly the same. It's like, here's the mold. There's a lobby, you get buzzed back, there's a sea of cubicles, and there's some conference rooms. And we were in one of those conference rooms, and just like the gentleman just told you, just a conference room. Like, picture it. No windows, no color, state-issued furniture, phones that plug into the wall, conference room. And the gentleman leading the class said, when a child is removed from their home, they come here. And I looked around that room, and I literally thought, why would you bring a child here? Like, surely he's mistaken. And so I raised my hand and I said, I'm sorry, sir, but when you say a child comes here, what do you really mean? And he said, a little girl slept in this room last night. And I don't know if it was the mama in me. I don't know if it was something about sitting in that space, but my chest physically was aching. And I remember my shoulders got real heavy, and they went toward the table, and I started crying, and I couldn't not see her. This 6, 7, 8-year-old little girl who'd left the only mama she'd ever known, and although we might not approve, she did. And if she was allowed to bring anything, it was in a black trash bag. There's a message in that. And now she was sleeping on the floor of a conference room. And then it was like I started feeling it, like physically feeling the emotions. And I was like, oh my word, she's so scared. She's so confused. She's so tired. She's so lonely. And then I felt something I didn't know I was going to feel. I felt guilt. And I thought, she thinks this is her fault. She thinks she's in trouble. And she's done nothing wrong. And in that moment, I heard God say, these are my children. What are you going to do? And I want you to hear this loud and clear. There is nothing special about me. God speaks to all of us all the time. I will never understand why the creator of the universe longs to work through us. He doesn't need us, he wants us. He speaks to us all the time. He speaks to us through his word and through people and through an idea that won't go away or a feeling in your heart or your gut, somebody you keep running into. He's working, he's moving, he's speaking all the time. But in that moment, in that conference room, I was a cheer and dance coach who had no clue what I could possibly do to help the foster care system that I was 7 weeks into. And so I basically said no. And I went back home to my beautiful children and my really easy, safe life. Fast forward to November 5th, 2015. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. And we got a call from the Carter County Department of Children's Services that there was a 9-month-old little boy that needed a home. And I said, ma'am, I'm going to do something very uncharacteristic. And she said, what's that? I said, I'm going to ask my husband if this is okay. She said, that's a good idea. And so I called Corey at work and I said, tell me you'll love me no matter what. And he said, you wrecked the car again? I was like, no. Again, no. Tell me you'll love me no matter what. And he said, what's going on? And I said, we're about to get in the hottest mess we've ever been in. He said, there's a baby. I said, there's a baby. He said, I'm on my way. And so we loaded up our, at that time, 12-year-old daughter, Sophie, and our 9-year-old son, Mac. And we went to the back door of the Carter County Department of Children's Services. And this would be the first time I would see removal day through the eyes of a foster parent. We came around to the back door. They opened the door. And there was this fair-skinned, fiery redhead, chubbiest 9-month-old I'd ever seen. And his outfit was way too small. And they explained to me that the outfit he had on was so filthy, they had to throw it away. And so they just tried to find something in the office to put on him. And then they handed me his one possession. It was a diaper bag. And I was instructed not to take it into my home for the next 12 to 24 hours so that the roaches would crawl out. That's how that little boy entered this system, in a borrowed outfit with a roach-infested diaper bag. But he smiled and he reached for me, and his name is Isaiah. And so we took Isaiah home. And I tell people, if you haven't had a baby in your house in 9 years, you need Jesus. So they don't sleep through the night or anything. It's really weird. And so we started reading through the book of Isaiah, and we landed on Isaiah 1:17. And part of that verse says, defend the cause of the fatherless. But for years, I had spoken at women's retreats and youth functions, and I'd always said, people, you can't take a verse. You can't take just a verse because it fits your need. You can't take a verse because it's a cute hashtag or look good on a coffee mug. You have to look, who was that verse intended for? What is the context? What comes before that verse? What comes after that verse? So if you look at Isaiah 1:17, the context is very simple. God is speaking to his people. And if you look at what comes before it, God is actually quite frustrated. He says, you think I want these new moon festivals? You think I want these sacrifices? You think I want what you're currently doing? No. It's making me sick to my stomach. What I want from my people is to do good and seek justice and take care of the widow and defend the cause of the fatherless. This is our calling. This was never the state's calling. And so we grabbed a hold of that verse and we grabbed a hold of that little baby and we started walking our first ever foster care journey. At that time, we had no idea that our foster care journey would last 1,107 days. There's a 117 in there because God's funny. But I tell people all the time, I didn't learn about DCS at a dinner or in a church pew. I learned about DCS in the trenches. I learned about DCS by being in that office every Friday morning at 10 a.m. for 2 years. I learned about DCS through courtrooms and judges and child advocates and caseworkers. And everything that you've heard about the system, I'm sure you've heard it's broken, it's flawed. Yes. But I now know that that system is broken and flawed because we're dealing with broken and flawed people. Of course it is. This isn't black and white. This is a really messy gray. But there were some things about this system that we learned that we couldn't walk away from. I tell people all the time, once you know, you can't not know. And now we knew. And these are the things that we knew. Number one, we saw removal day for the first time ever. See, if you had told me before I learned about foster care that a child was being removed, I was a high school teacher before that, and if you had told me a child was being removed, I would have said, yay, yay. They're going to get a bath, and they're going to get a meal, and they're going to be at school every day next week. Yay, removal day. But not for that child on that day. For that child, everything just fell apart. They just lost mama, and I'm telling you, they love mama. They just lost grandmama. They just lost their home. And it doesn't matter if you live there or not, they would. That is their home. They just lost their possessions. They have no promise of being placed with those siblings, the only people that understand what they're walking through. They have no promise of that same school the next day. They have no promise of that teacher that's been so kind. They have no promise of lunch with their friends. Every part of their life just fell apart. And that child, in that traumatized state, has to wait for placement. It's just the way it is. But currently, that child waits in a cubicle or a conference room or a courthouse or a jail. And sometimes the wait's an hour. And sometimes the wait's 3 hours. And sometimes the wait's 8 hours. And sometimes the wait's 24 hours. And sometimes it's days. No bath, no bed. They wait. The second thing that we learned is somewhere along the way, caseworkers became the villains. Caseworkers are not villains. Caseworkers, guess who sits in that cubicle or that conference room or that courthouse or that jail with that child for 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours? That caseworker. Guess who goes and finds food for that child? That caseworker. Guess who goes and cleans that child off in a sink of a bathroom or with baby wipes? That caseworker. I had a 38-year veteran of DCS work say to me the other day, the absolute scariest time for her was the end of the month, because she knew that when children were removed, her workers didn't have any money left. It's not the way it's supposed to be. These caseworkers are being asked to do a mountain of states paperwork in a cubicle with a sibling group of 3 in traumatized states. It can't be done. It can't be done. And then the third thing that we realize is we need good foster families. We need foster families that are going to say yes, but the call is almost impossible. Because the call is this, it's at midnight, and they say we have a sibling group of 3, they all have lice, they all need baths, they have 0 possessions, can we bring them to you right now? How do you say yes to that? And so in January of 2017, that's 117, because God's funny, I went to my boss at Milligan College and I asked to go part-time, and I told God that I was going to create some space. And I finally said yes to the question he posed to me in 2014, and the yes sounded very much like this: I have no idea what you want me to do, but I will do it. That yes turned into a Google search. I Googled how to start a nonprofit, because if you want God to have the glory, you put someone totally ill-equipped in charge. That Google search led to me buying a domain name, Isaiah117house.com. I had no idea what a domain name is. I still don't understand who GoDaddy is, but I bought it. That Google search led to forming a board, and we wanted a very specific board. We wanted a DCS liaison, we wanted a CPA, we wanted a lawyer, and we formed a board, and we had our first ever meeting on February 26th of 2017. And that's when the dream took shape. What if there was a home? What if there was a home? What if when a child is removed and going through the most traumatic day of their life, they don't go to a cubicle or a conference room or a courthouse, they go to a home, an actual house, where every aspect of that house, from the colors to the comfy furniture, says to them loud and clear, you are not alone. We see you. You are loved. You are not in trouble. This is happening to you, not because of you. You need a bath? We got a fully stocked bathroom. And not just any bathroom. We got Elmo bubble bath and bath toys, and we're going to put that big white fluffy towel in the dryer and wrap you up when you get out. A bath. You're a teenager, you need a shower? We've got shampoo and conditioner and deodorant, and the teenage boys, they love the Axe body spray. We have the Axe body spray. Like, we take a shower. You need a new backpack for school tomorrow because you couldn't bring yours? Go pick out a new one. Pick out a new pair of shoes and a new coat and new jeans, and you lift your chin up. You are not in trouble. You are loved. What if there was a home? What if there was a home for those caseworkers? What if there was a home where they could bring that child? We'll have an office space. You do the work you desperately need to do. We'll have your favorite coffee and your favorite creamer. And when we order dinner, we're getting dinner for you. What if there was a home where the caseworkers could feel like they're not alone? What if there was a home where that call that comes to foster parents at midnight now sounds like this? We have a sibling group of 3. They've all been at the Isaiah 117 house. They've had lice treatments and baths. They played outside. They made glitter slime. They've had a snack and dinner. They're now in their pajamas with their teeth brushed, and they have everything they need for the next 2 to 3 days. And by the way, foster family, what do you need? You need a pack and play? You need formula, bottles, diapers? We're going to load your car up, because foster parent, you're not alone. Kinship placement, you're not alone. What if there was a home? And so we went out into Carter County in 2017, and we started saying, what if there was a home? And I'm here to tell you, Carter County, Tennessee lost their minds. In less than a year, we had a completely paid for, debt-free home. It had been completely remodeled for free by area contractors to the tune of $90,000. They said, if you'll get it, we'll rebuild it for free. All new plumbing, all new electric, all new floors. We had every closet full, every cabinet full. We had a fully funded first year's budget in the bank, and we were ready to serve the children of Carter County. And I had no idea how effective a home can be to reduce trauma for that child, come alongside that caseworker, and ease that transition for future foster parents. It's unbelievable. But God wasn't finished. God was determined to build houses for children that He'd never forgotten. So in September of this year, we opened our second home in Washington County, debt-free, fully funded first year's budget. In November, we opened our third in Greene County, debt-free, fully funded first year's budget. In April, we will open our fourth in Sullivan, debt-free, fully funded first year's budget, new build from the ground up for free. We broke ground in Blount County yesterday. Cott County has land. Knox County is working. Sevier County has land and contractors. Monroe just joined us. Jefferson just joined us. Anderson just joined us. Coffee, Franklin, Grundy, we're here tonight to get your home. Rutherford County, Bradley County, and that's just Tennessee. We will open our first home in Indiana later this spring, and 3 other counties have rallied in Indiana. God's not finished. He's not finished. That's what we want for the children of your community, and that's why we're here tonight. And I've talked way longer. I don't know why I feel like y'all people decide you're my friends. I've just talked and talked. But I do have to wrap up our story, especially because Corey's here, and he says if I don't finish our story, he sounds like a bad person, and Corey Paulson is not a bad person. Isaiah joined our family through foster care in November of 2015. In March of 2017, Isaiah had a full sibling brother that was born named Eli. Eli came into custody at 3 weeks old, and they called, and I got off the phone and I was crying, and Corey said, "Why are you crying?" And I was like, "Well, I begged for Sophie, and I begged for Mac, and I tricked you into Isaiah. You don't want any more babies." And he said, "Oh, we're taking that baby." And so Eli joined our family in March of 2017, and in one of the most full circle moments I'll ever experience, from watching National Adoption Day in 2014 to participating in National Adoption Day in 2018 when they became Isaiah and Eli Paulson. It's amazing. And here's what's crazy. Isaiah 1:19 says, "If you are willing and obedient, you will taste the best of the land." And we are tasting the best of the land. Thank you.
I was told that I could speak before Wanda. So now I don't even really want to, because who can go after that? That is insane. So real quick, Susan's gonna kill me, but I've been blessed enough to be alongside her with a group of other ladies 2 days a week since the beginning of this, and I don't even remember how long it's been now, how many months. Listening to her stories, and we knew that we wanted to be a part of it, and the committee started forming, and we would go to committee meetings. So the ladies from the committee meetings and I have a little gift for you. I knew I had to say something, that I couldn't just hand it to her. And I stayed up way too late last night praying about what I was going to say, and I came up with this really good story about the hats that we wear and how everybody has a hat, a wife, a mother, a child, a daughter, aunt, uncle, and then we get adorned with different ribbons and different flowers, and you know, it relates all the way back to the crown that we're going to get in heaven, and how God is just preparing us now to adorn us later. My son had a basketball game, and I left my note at home that had everything on it that I wanted to say. So I was thinking on the way out, okay, I was going to say this and this bullet point and that. And then the games go over, and my son has a double ball game. My 3-year-old daughter's pitching a fit. She's starving. So I go to get her some popcorn in the cafeteria at the high school in Grundy. And I'm standing there, and it's pretty loud. It's full of women, high school kids working. And then I hear Fallon real deep. And I'm like, who is that? And I look around, and there's a 7 or 8 little boy standing up on the stage holding his throat. And I look, and his mom runs up there. I've seen his mom on, as Rhonda says, the Facebook, but I didn't know him. Run up there, nursing background, do the Heimlich. I've delivered babies, I've done a lot of things, but I've only done the Heimlich 3 times. Successful. Everything was expelled, but it got me thinking, you know, all of the kids that Kelly talked about, here this one child was that needed help. Susan referenced one child. If you don't feel like you can help all the children, the 200, the 2,000, shoot for 2. Let's just shoot for 2 kids. Let's see what we can do, what difference we can make for only 2. Susan wears many hats, going back to what I was saying before. She has so much going on. She is such a private person, and she doesn't talk about anything, but she has a lot, and she takes the Isaiah house, and she puts it at the forefront. She has God and this mission at the very beginning, and she's always smiling. She is always trying to see what she can do. Whether she is stressed out or worried, she picks up all 13 of these kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she loves on them, regardless of what's going on with them or going on with her. So I reached out to a lady and told her that we needed to get a gift for you. They're probably going to want to see it.
I'm a little afraid.
And she said, okay, Fallon, I can hook something up. This was just like 3 days ago. She's like, what do you want? Natasha Connery, if y'all know her. I'm like, I've been seeing the stuff you're putting on Facebook, and I need something, but I don't know what. She's like, well, just get Susan a gift card, like, get her an Amazon card. I'm like, no way. She would give it to the Isaiah house, and I want her to have something for her this one time. So she whipped it together. I asked her how much, and she said, how can I charge? She said, it's free, a free gift. And she's willing to make some if y'all would like some too. Thank you.
I'm going to go off script for just a second, and I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind. You've seen it before, haven't you? I want to disagree with something you said earlier. And I know you don't want to make this about you tonight, but you are special. And I thank the Lord for it. I'm definitely one of those people who don't cry pretty, so I'm sorry. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Trey Anderson. Judge Anderson was elected as a General Sessions and Juvenile Court Judge in 2006. He became the first rural-safe baby court judge in Tennessee in 2017. Judge Anderson grew up in Grundy County, which is located high up on the Cumberland Plateau in the mountains of Tennessee between Chattanooga and Nashville. He has a BS degree in criminal justice and a doctorate of jurisprudence degree. Prior to being elected, he served as the youth service officer for Grundy County, the specialist population coordinator, and criminal justice instructor for Grundy County High School. In 1995, he and his wife opened their law office in Grundy County. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge Anderson.
Well, I didn't know I was going to get an introduction. They're trying to be nice to me because they put me at the worst position following Rhonda and all three of them speaking. And they told me a couple weeks ago, they asked me if I would speak. Susan did. And I said, sure. I said, but what do you want me to speak on? I like to be prepared, especially when I'm speaking to so many people. And she said, Rhonda will tell you. And so we keep going on and on and on, and Rhonda will tell you. So I text this morning, I was like, oh, you could give me a little bit of idea about what you want to speak. Rhonda will tell you. So I got here at about 5:15, 5:20, and Rhonda took me back there in the children's library and told me in about 5 minutes, and then said, okay, you got this. And I was like, great. So she gave me four points that I have to hit. My why, for why I think Isaiah 117 house is such a great idea. And that's a hard one, because I've been doing this since 1986, this kind of work, when I was the youth service officer. So I went all the way back to 1986, and my very first case, and I don't even know if Kelly was working then at that point, as I don't think so. But my very first case was a little brown, and I'll probably cry, and I'm not a movie star like Jamie. I really ugly when I cry. But it was a little brown-eyed girl. I can't forget her, and it was my job. The DCS worker brought her in, and at that time, possibly kids might have to testify in cases, and I won't go into what the case was about, but the social worker brought her in and said, hey, I want you to get this little girl familiar with the court so she'll feel comfortable. And of course, me, I'm rolling around on the floor and jumping around, and we're playing and everything. And at the end of it, she asked me whether I'm an adult or I'm a kid. And I was very green. I was still in college at the time, and the social worker explained to me why she needed to know that, because the things that they were teaching her, because of the things she had been through. I immediately went to my office and just started crying. So that's my why. And I want to fill in a little bit of gap about what Susan went in March, I believe she said, to hear Rhonda speak. And Susan had just started coming to our truancy court with me and Val. And truancy court goes from 3:30 to 10 o'clock, 10:30. And Susan came up to me after she'd been here, Rhonda, and she said, hey, I heard this lady speak, and she said this and this has happened, everything that Rhonda just told you about. And she said, that doesn't happen in Grundy County? Does that happen here in Grundy County? And I was like, yes, Susan. She had only been to 2 or 3 of our truancy courts at that time. And I said, it happens. It even happens in truancy court. As God would have it, the next couple of times, or maybe the next 2 or 3 times, we had kids come into custody right after that. And that was Susan's why, was that little boy was in our truancy court. His dad couldn't take him home that day. Not anything to do with truancy, but because his dad tested positive for meth and those things in the courtroom, we couldn't let him go home with him. That's the child that Susan was talking about. So after that, Susan really got fired up and really got on the ball. And we had a conversation, and I thought, talking to Susan, I was like, we can do this. We can do this. I get outside of Susan's presence. I'm going, how are we going to do this? $150,000 Grundy County. I just don't see that we're going to do it. I talked to Susan. I'd go home and I'd tell Lindy, my wife, we can do this. And I'd cry and say, we can do this. I know we can do this. And then I'd go, how are we going to do this? So anyway, time goes on, and she says, You've got to hear Rhonda speak. So I hear Rhonda speak, and y'all heard it tonight. And I think, we've got to do this. We can do this. And then I heard Rhonda's plan, and I was really gung-ho. And it was like, we're going to have lemonade stands, we're going to sell T-shirts, and we're going to have this dinner. And we're going to make $150,000. And I thought, oh gosh, we can't do this. So my faith was going up and down and up and down. I remember going to a church, and I wanted to tell my church about it, get them behind me, and my pastor said, oh, we can do that in 6 months. And I thought, gosh, his faith is way up there, and mine's way down here. Anyway, so we started having yard sales and lemonade stands and selling T-shirts, and before you know it, in about 6 months, I believe Susan told me we had $50,000, which was amazing for me in Grundy County. And before we got there, we had to go meet with DCS, not just Kelly, but all the higher-ups, not just Wilson, but higher than that even. And so we went and had this meeting, and it was like, if DCS is not behind you, you can't go forward. And so we went to have that meeting, and then we had to wait, because that higher-up had to go to the top and see if they would actually support and back us. And we waited and we waited and we waited, and it was we kept waiting for our answer. And so finally Susan called me and said, we get to do it, but we have to take in the other counties in our region, which would be Coffee and Franklin. And that was great, because to me, we get to serve more children. We get to take in more children. So that's a really great thing. And I knew that poor little Grundy County needed help. And so here we are tonight with all of you, and it's just really a blessing to be here. So to me, I added to the Isaiah 117 house, Ephesians 3 and 20. Because when we got that message, and I don't know where my specialist is here. Okay, I see her. I got so nervous, I thought, I can't even remember Ephesians 3 and 20 now. But Jessica told me He'll give us more than we ask or can even think. And so He expanded us into 3 counties instead of just 1. So anyway, we got to where we're at here tonight. And am I allowed to tell what amount we're at? I can tell anything.
I'm just not telling you what to say.
Okay. So y'all, from our little, we were right at pushing 50,000 when Grundy County was just involved. And then when Susan really exploded into Coffee County and Franklin County, now we're at $132,000. So I guess we can do this. So, and y'all are going to push us over the edge tonight. I have faith, my pastor. I have faith that we're going to go over that mark tonight. Anyway, you've got these little cards on your table. Uncover them from your food and all the trash that's on your table, but you've got these little cards and you've got a diagram of the Isaiah house. Look at those. When we started Safe Baby Court in Grundy County, we had one foster home. And it was our goal to get more foster homes. And I feel like this Isaiah house has helped us getting the word out there that we need an Isaiah house, that we need foster homes, we need everything. We now, a friend told me that we are at 3 foster homes in Grundy County, and we got another one almost there, almost ready. So we're going to have 4 foster. So we've increased from the time we started doing this from 1 to 4 foster homes in Grundy County. So I think this is going to support foster homes as well and get us to where we need to be. But I'm on number 2 of my list that she gave me right before I came in here to speak. Of course we want your money. I'm just going to be blunt with you and not we want your money. But we also want your time. We want your service. If you're a contractor here and you can build a house or you can dig a ditch or you can put in a sewer or whatever, we will take that. If you're a really good counselor and you just want to counsel with children, we will take that. When we get our Isaiah house up and running, if you want to come and mow our yard, we will take that. If you want to clean our house, we will take that. If you just want to love on the children and be a volunteer, we will take that. My eyes have been opened so many times during this journey. So Rhonda told me to tell you about your pledge card here. It's written really small, so if you didn't bring your glasses, you may have to borrow some. But I want you to fill that out, and you can put whatever you want on there. If there's something on there that you can do that we don't know about, we've never thought of, flip it over on the back and write, hey, I'm an expert at this. I will provide this for you. Hey, I can't give you any money, but I'll put you on our prayer group. Hey, I can put in a sewer. Whatever you want to put, flip it over on the back. We will look at every one of these cards and we will use you. I guarantee you that. But we want you to fill out that card. There's something for everybody. You can volunteer to do anything. Fill out that card. If you don't see it on there, I think we only go up to, what's the highest one there? Like a 10,000 or something like that. So if you want to donate 20 or 30,000, just write it on the back and put your check on there. We're totally fine with that, okay? So you're going to fill out your pledge card, and you're going to put it in your envelope. And then whoever the leader of your table is, I'm going to designate Lindy the leader of ours since I'm up here. She's got the big envelope, and you're going to put all the little envelopes inside the big envelopes, okay? What? Oh, one more thing while you're doing that. If we thought we had a spot, we've decided that Pelham would be an absolute perfect spot because it's almost the perfect distance from Coffee, Franklin, and Grundy Courthouse. We would really like to have, I'm not going to make you Pelham people raise your hand, but we would really like to have a half acre in Pelham. Just, cut out one of your little cornfields and give us half an acre. It just has to perk. I'm not real sure what that is, but it's something to do with septic tank. It's just got to perk. But if you've got land in Pelham, we want a half acre. It can be surrounded by a cornfield. We don't care, okay? We would love to have land in Pelham. Write that on the back of the card. We will definitely come and see you. I'll do your deed for free, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Anderson. Okay, we're not done yet. We're getting ready to watch a slideshow in just a minute before we have closing prayer. So everybody go ahead and be working on your envelopes and your pledge cards. Jesus fed the 5,000 with a few pieces of fish and some loaves of bread. And it's going to be amazing what he can do tonight with the good people of Coffee, Franklin, and Grundy County, and some lemonade stands and some Chick-fil-A. So everybody just start passing those around, and the slideshow will start in just a moment. I'm not sure who's got control of that.
So that's the reason we're at 130, but we can't start because we can't break ground. All of that.
Okay. Judge Anderson just informed me that, according, like you said, we're currently at 130,000, but we cannot break land on the house until we reach our goal of 150,000. So once we reach 150,000, we will be able to break ground on the Isaiah 117 house. Okay, I'd like to remind you just to put your small envelopes into the table's big envelope, and we will have a closing prayer before we leave. So we're not going to leave yet. Just make sure that everybody understands we're going to have a closing prayer. So everybody reach deep in your pockets.
Daniel Troutman. I'm not sure who he is.
The guy that's praying.
Wow, man.
Thank you. That was so funny. I had no idea. I had no idea you were waiting on me. All I was going to say was I was going to tell you just the process of the pledge part. But I had no idea you were waiting on me. And Susan would say the judge wants to talk to me. I was like, oh yeah, we'll talk about the pledge part when he gets here. I didn't know what you were saying. I just put the pledge part. That was so funny.
She never used to be where you're from. Swansea.
Oh, really?
All right, ready to pray? Ready to pray?
I'm Daniel, by the way.
Nice to meet you. It's been... I've just never gotten to watch from this man. Like, I'm literally watching him. It's crazy. All right.
We're ready.
Okay, again, just because we're getting ready to close the prayer does not mean that you can't finish up your envelopes and donate money, but at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Daniel Troutman, who is the worship pastor, creative arts director at New Beginnings Church. So, Brother Troutman.
God, we love you. And I just thank you for this night. I thank you for every single person in this room. God, I thank you for who you are and that you are a good, good Father. And God, we just want to align our hearts with yours. We want to join in your mission for these children. And God, I just thank you that you've ordered our steps here tonight. And I just pray, God, that we would do whatever it takes to help your children, to bring them to safety, to give them a place that they can come and experience your love. And God, I pray that we could just reach into the darkest places of our counties and we could affect change for you and give you all the glory and all the honor. God, you are Father to the fatherless. You are so good. You're so worthy. And God, we want to show your kindness and your mercy and your grace to these children that need it so desperately. God, thank you for letting us be a part of this night. Thank you for all the leaders. Thank you for all the generosity. Help us to just always want to give more. God, we love you. We thank you for everything that you're doing. And we just pray that your hand be all over every single thing that's done, not only in this county, but the counties to come. It's in your holy, holy name that we pray. the name of Jesus. Amen.